Karayai Samsutaha Palushaha Pashuhu Na Yat Karna Partha Upetya Jatu Nama Gadagajaha Svavidvarahots Sakarahai Samstuta Parusha Pashuhu Nayat Karna Patopeto Jatu Nama Gadagajaha Svavidvarahotsra Karai Samstruta Purusha Pashuhu Nayat Karna Patopeto Jatu Nama Gadagajaha Svavidvarahotsra Karai Samstruta Purusha Pashuhu Nayat Karna Patopeto Jatu Nama Gadagajaha
Svavidvarahostrakarai
Svavidvarahotsakarai
Samstutak Purushak Pashuhu
Samstruta Parusho Pashuhu
Yadkarna Patopeto
Yatkarno Patopeto
Jatu Nama Gadagajaha
Jatu Nama Gadagajaha
Svavidvarahostrakarai
Svavidvarahotsakarai
Sangstuta Purusha Pashu Nayat Karna Patopeto
Patopeto
Tutu Namagada Gajaha
Jatu Nama Gadagajaha
Svavidvarahostrakarai
Svavidvarahotsakarai
Samstutaha Parushu Pashu
Samshuta Parusha Pashuhu
Nayat Karna Patopeto
Nayat Karna Patopeto
Jatu Namagada Gajaha
Karna Gadagajaha
Svavidvarahostrakarai
Svavidvarahotsakarai
Samstuta Purusha Pashuhu
Samstuta Purusha Pashuhu
Nayat Karna Patopeto
Nayat Karna Patopeto
Jatu Namagada Gajaha
Gadagajaha
Svavidvarahostrakarai
Svavidvarahotsakarai
Samstutaha Purusha Pashuhu
Samstuta Purusha Pashuhu
Nayat Karna Patopeto
Nayat Karna Patopeto
Jatu Namagada Gajaha
Jatu Nama Gadagajaha
Svavidvarahostrakarai
Svavidvarahotsakarai
Samstuta Purusha Pashuhu
Samstuta Purusha Pashuhu
Nayat Karna Patopeto
Nayat Karna Patopeto
Jatu Namagada Gajaha
Jatu Nama Gadagajaha. Okay, Jai, is that everyone? All right. Swa, a dog. Fit, Raha. the village dog who eats stool, Utsra, the camel, Karai, and by the asses, Samstutaha, perfectly praised, Purushaha, a person, Pashuhu, animal, Na, never, Yat, of him, Karna, ear, Pata, path, Upetya, reached, Jatu, at any time, Nama, the holy name, Gadagajaha, Lord Krishna, the deliverer from all evils. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, the deliverer from evils. Purport: the general mass of people, unless they are trained systematically for higher standard of life and spiritual values, are no better than animals. In this verse, they have particularly been put on the level of dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Modern university education practically prepares one to acquire a doggish mentality with which to accept the service of a greater master. After finishing a so-called education, the so-called educated person moves like dogs from door to door with applications for some service, and mostly they are driven away, informed of no vacancy. As dogs are negligible animals and serve the master faithfully, or bits of bread, a man serves a master faithfully without sufficient rewards. Persons who have no discrimination in the matter of foodstuff and who eat all sorts of rubbish are compared to hogs. Hogs are very much attached to eating stools. So stool is a kind of foodstuff for a particular type of animal. And even stones are edibles for a particular type of animal or bird. But the human being is not meant for eating everything and anything. He is meant to eat grains, vegetables, fruits, milk, sugar, etc. Animal food is not meant for the human being. For chewing solid food, the human being has a particular type of teeth meant for cutting fruits and vegetables. The human being is endowed with two canine teeth as a concession for persons who will eat animal food at any cost. It is known to everyone that one man's food is another man's poison. Human beings are all expected to accept the remnants of food offered to the Lord, Sri Krishna, and the Lord accepts foodstuff from from the categories of leaves, flowers, fruits, etc. Bhagavad Gita 9:26. As prescribed in Vedic scriptures, no animal food is offered to the Lord. Therefore, a human being is meant to eat a particular type of food. He should not imitate the animals to derive so-called vitamin values. Therefore, a person who has no discrimination in regard to eating is compared to a hog. So it goes on to describe more in detail the camel and the ass. For now, maybe we can cover these two, and maybe we'll go on. So this dog here in the United States, there's a common saying that dog is man's best friend. And Prabhupada was saying simply it's because the human being, he's behaving like a dog. And therefore he associates with a dog. And that's what he's able to get closest with is a dog. Because he has a doggish mentality, he attracts a dog. So the dog is his best friend. And he renders him all types of services. He's always there for him. And the master, he just gives him a couple table scraps or what's mentioned in the purport, just a couple crumbs of bread, and the dog is completely satisfied. So this is not the right way to live. We shouldn't be working all day and all night and serving a master who is not going to be beneficial for us. When I'm reading this, I'm thinking that the general mass of population, they're serving the worst master, which is their senses. And they're busy engaged in serving their senses in all types of various different ways. And, what reward are they actually getting? What are they actually getting in return for this? They're getting some pleasure that is comparable to just a couple grains, just a couple pieces of bread. It's nothing sufficient at all. And then the hog is described here. He doesn't discriminate at all with his food. A hog goes on eating stool. That's in fact what he prefers. If you make some very nice gulabjamun, some nice rasgulla, some first-class halva, like we'll have tonight, we're going to have some first-class halva and a first-class sabji tonight. If you put that in front of a hog, the hog is not going to even touch it. He's going to say, "Where's the stool? Let me get the stool." So this is the taste that the majority of people have in the material world. This is their taste. Stool is attractive for them to eat. And meanwhile, they're claiming they're big personalities. Oh, I am big teacher, I am government official, I am big scientist. And meanwhile, they're attracted to eating stool. How can you claim to be any type of sophisticated man if you're busy going to McDonald's and picking up your food? How is this possible? This is no better than stool. You're just going to these fast food restaurants. This is the same as a hog, just eating stool. There's virtually no nutritional value in any of this. It's just rubber stamped. They're just cranking it out like anything. It's made with the worst parts of the slaughtered mother. Just the scraps of when they get done slaughtering our mother. It's really horrible. So there's a saying, you are what you eat. And we know this to be true. So, we can understand that the holy name, it purifies all. Whoever takes up the chanting of this. So many of us came from a background of this sinful behavior, and we can understand it's a very sinful thing that we are engaged in. And, if we were just going to these places that I speak of, 5 years ago or whatever, it's going to take some time for us to be purified. That's the fact of the matter. The holy name, it can purify us very quickly, but, everybody has a different karmic predicament and makeup. And, so let us be patient and continue chanting the holy name, if this is the case. The Americans, Prabhupada, he talks about how they're busy making best friends with the dog, and then which causes so much offense. The dog, he's an offender. You walk down the street, you can't go anywhere in Kansas City without walking down the street and hearing roof, 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 a dog barking at a fence. Everywhere you go, everybody has dogs, and all the dogs are totally bewildered because they're being fed all this meat. So they're in this big defending mentality, so they have this violent energy, and they just want to portray it on who's ever walking by. This is offensive, is it not? If one was to walk up to, pass your door, we see this sometimes in the South, somebody just pulls out a shotgun and shoots in the air, get off my property. That's pretty offensive. That's what the dog is doing. He's just basically ruff, ruff, get off my property, and you're not causing any botheration. So man, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai. So man, he's busy making friends with one of the biggest offenders, a dog who just goes on offending for no reason, day after day. And meanwhile, he's killing the most compassionate mother who's going on just She doesn't even drink her own milk. She just takes a little grass that grows everywhere, and she can digest it nicely and produces milk. We can make wonderful foodstuffs and offer them to Krishna with her milk. And meanwhile, here in the West, we're busy slaughtering our own mother and making friends with our biggest offender. This is how confused we are. And this state of consciousness, as we can tell from the verse, it has come about from actually not utilizing our hearing propensity. So one can be said to be the same as a dog, hog, camel, or ass if he's not utilizing his hearing propensity as he should be. If he's hearing all type of rubbish and eating all type of rubbish, and that means his consciousness is polluted with all type of rubbish. And in turn, how is he going to behave? How is his mind going to develop? How is he going to act towards other human beings? You are what you eat. You are what you take in. All of these things we need to be very careful of. And therefore, let us only take Krishna Mahaprasadam. Let us only hear the glories of the Lord. And, let us only stay in association with those swan-like devotees who are aspiring to, dedicate their lives to propagating the glories of the Lord. And in this way, we can come out of this degraded condition of just behaving like an animal. When I hear a verse like this, I think we need to be very careful, actually, because the ego is very, very subtle. And I can see that it becomes very easy to take on this mentality of a greater than thou just because you come and take this role of a monk living at a temple. This is also the false ego. We're thinking I am strict, I am brahmachari, I am vanaprastha, I am sannyasi, I am leader of ISKCON, but this is all the false ego. This is the ego platform, if one is actually thinking this. And we all can get so into performing whatever role that we're performing at the time, place, and circumstance that we can very easily develop a mentality of holier than thou or better than thou, and forget that we should be remaining more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, ready to offer all respects to others and expecting none in return for myself. And this hopefully can combat this mentality when you hear a verse like this. Because, I'm sure it's a complaint that some materialists may have if they hear something like this, like you guys are puffed up, or you guys have big egos or whatever. But we have to remember that we're simply souls. We're servants of Krishna, and we're just playing different roles due to whatever karmic makeup we have. So if we could try to use everything as a vehicle to awaken this God realization of knowing that, I need to start thinking about Krishna all the time. This is my brother also. He needs to start thinking about Krishna all the time. If we're thinking of relationships like this, they can be used as a vehicle to actually realize God together, rather than used how they're used in the material sense of if I accept who you think you are, then you have to accept who I think I am. And then we can go on and we can subtly boost each other's ego and are together. This is what most relationships stem off of. And as soon as somebody gets in the way of that, the relationship has trouble. As soon as somebody wants to maybe try to cut through the false ego of somebody, that relationship, it will no longer want to fructify, because the one party involved is saying, look, this is who I think I am, and you're not accepting it, so I have a problem with that. So rather than operating on this superficial plane, we can operate with our relationships and, okay, like, let's try to go back home together. So like, let me try to remind this Prabhu of Krishna in every moment. Let me use this relationship as a vehicle of awakening together, where we can both grow towards Krishna. So this is speaking about hearing the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna and it being the deliverer from all evils. So maybe we can hear some pastimes from Lord Krishna rather than just, kind of talk about hearing about Krishna's pastimes or hearing about Krishna. This also comes to mind sometimes too. This is just some thoughts I have, like, it's one thing to like hear Krishna's pastimes, and it's another thing to just like be stuck kind of on the platform of talking about hearing Krishna's pastimes. Just like it's one thing to like preach, and it's another thing about Krishna, and it's another thing to like preach about preaching about preaching. Like they're totally different. So like we should just make note, like, anyway, like, so the hog, it's said that he doesn't discriminate his food stuff. So there's a pastime that comes to mind that Lord Chaitanya talked about, where it's the glories of actually coming in association just for a few moments of a pure devotee. That devotee is Narada Muni in this particular pastime. And there was a hunter, as many of us has heard, named Mrigari. And he was a hunter from birth. His father, he brought him up in the mood of hunting and having to kill animals to sustain his life. And Mrigari, since we were talking in relation to the people who, later in this purport it's mentioned, the people who they eat meat, they actually can't, their brain substance isn't valid to comprehend any sorts of these topics. They just are dull. Those who don't take sufficient nutrient food stuff that's been offered to the Lord makes it not possible to understand Krishna. So this Mrigari, he was a hunter, and he was killing all these animals. He was living in the forest, and he would skin the animals. He would actually kill them with his bow, and he would leave them half dead. And he would kind of just let them suffer. And this is how his father taught him, to live. So sometimes he would skin the animals and put them on as, clothing, and, this is how he would eat. So Narada Muni, he came walking through this forest one day, and he sees this deer, and it's half dead. It's lying there. And he says, oh, this is not good. And then he sees a hog, and the hog is half dead, and then he sees a couple other birds, and they're lying there half dead. What the heck's going on? And he comes across this hunter named Mrigari. And the hunter, he basically, Narada Muni says, Mr. Hunter, why are you half killing these animals? This is incredibly sinful. And he says, it never even crossed his mind that it was sinful to half kill these animals. This is how my father taught me. My father taught me to go up to McDonald's, and that's how I eat. My father taught me, just go up to KFC and get yourself a bucket of fried chicken, and this is okay. So this was similarly Mrigari's position. That's all he knew. It's just leave the animals half killed. When they die, I'll toast them up and eat them. And Narada Muni told him, Mrigari said, is there anything I can do for you? I see that you're a great saintly person. What can I do for you? And he said, I can give you these nice furs that I have collected, or I can give you some meat. I have all these animals. He said, no, I don't want anything, but I just want one thing from you. I want you to stop half killing the animals. It's sinful. Just fully kill them if you're going to go on hunting. And he said, sinful? I've never even thought about incurring any reaction for what I'm doing. And Narada Muni further explained to him, yes, it's sinful even to eat the animals and, to behave in this way and that way. And Mrigari, he had a huge change of heart. He had a major realization on the spot, coming in association with the pure devotee Narada Muni. So he said, my dear Narada Muni, I'm incredibly sinful. I've spent my whole life living like a debauchee. How can I rectify my sins? And Narada Muni initiated him into the Mahamantra. And he said, chant this fixed number of rounds in front of Tulsi Devi each day, and you'll be okay. You and your wife just go in this cottage and just chant. And when you're not chanting, you can take care of Tulsi Maharani, and she'll bestow her blessings upon you. And this way you'll become purified. And he said, but how will I eat? Narada Muni said, no problem. I'll bring you some Krishna Prasad every day. I'll bring you nice foodstuffs, all you can eat. I'll bring you nice grains, sabji, halava, rasgullas, gulab jamins, all the nice foodstuffs that I offer to the Lord, I'll bring to you. And you just take to your full satisfaction and keep chanting, and you'll become purified. So this is our position. We've come in contact with a pure devotee of the Lord at some point in our life, and we've accepted initiation from him, or we're very soon trying for initiation from him, and he's given us some instructions. Be patient. Let the holy name take the effect and ride it out, and you'll become totally purified of all this past sinful behavior and activity. And in this way, you'll no longer be attracted to eating stool. You'll actually start developing a higher taste in life, and you'll come off the animal platform. And it happens rapidly. It's really amazing, this process. It's really amazing. So speaking of stool, here's another pastime we can talk about. This is from Krishna Lila. So Radharani, there was, the great demon Kamsa. He was pretty lusty after Radharani, actually. And this actually, the word was getting out around town, and Radha's grandmother, she hid Radharani. She said, you go to the forest and I'll give you a nice cottage. It'll be nice by a lake, and you can go and hang out there for some time. We're worried that Kamsa is going to kidnap you, actually, because he was very lusty after her. And, she did that. And after some time, her grandmother was still worried. So her grandmother, she said, I'm going to get you married, Radha. Shrimati Radharani. So she said, you can marry this nice boy, Abhimanyu. He's a cowherd boy, and you can have your marriage. And it actually happened very quick like that. Not many of the Brajavasis knew about the wedding. It was pretty limited for who attended. And, they got married. And later that day, Krishna, going back to Nandagram after a day out tending to the cows, he was walking back, and there was this old Brajavasi, and he had some luglus with him. Everyone here know what a luglu is? It's a very special type of sweet. Prabhupada said it's directly from the spiritual world. We'll have to make them soon. I've made them before, but if some people don't know what they are, that means we're not offering them enough. So this Brajavasi, he says, I have these luglus, please take one, Krishna. And she said, okay, great. They're big, like large luglus. So Krishna takes a bite of it and he says, oh, wow, man, this is great. Where'd you get this? And he said, don't you know? There was a wedding today. And Krishna says, a wedding? I had no idea. Who got married? And the Brajavasi said, Srimati Radharani got married. She got married too. And Krishna goes, and he spits the luglu out and he says, Srimati Radharani, she got married? No, this is horrible. Like that. So he wasn't too happy to hear this, that there was a wedding with Abhimanyu and Srimati Radharani. And so Krishna, he wasn't too happy, so he went back home, and as he made his way home, we know that Radharani, she was in her palace with Abhimanyu, and she's actually not too happy about the whole arrangement because, she wants to be with Krishna, but instead she's married this cowherd man, Abhimanyu, and she's not too pleased with it, So she's kind of in this situation where she's spending a lot of time in this moon tower. A lot of times in the palaces of Vrindavan, it's talked about there's different moon gazing towers that they'll have where it's kind of like a skylight, I imagine, and they can just kind of look out at the moon at the night, in the nighttime. So Radharani, she's spending like all of her time up here, like thinking about Krishna, because she wants to be with him. And Abhimanyu comes home and in the mornings because he's out all night watching the cows. Because he's a cowherd boy, so he's, a cowherd man, so he's got to make sure the cows are taken care of. And, so one night, Krishna, he comes and he sneaks into one of the nearby trees by Radha's room. And he starts signaling to her, imitating a cooing of a cuckoo. Cuckoo, cuckoo. And Abhimanyu's mother, she's very suspicious, actually. Because, it's like cuckoo birds, they only coo in the morning, in the afternoon. They don't coo during the evening. So she's hearing this cuckooing coming from the tree, and she's like, something's going on. I think there's an intruder trying to get with my good son's new wife. I think somebody's trying to sneak in with Radha. So she goes out, and Abhimanyu's mother, she was half blind, it's described. So she's going out there and she's yelling, I know you're out here, you Dubachi, you rascal. I know somebody's hiding in this tree, but she can't see Krishna, because Krishna's covered over by Yogamaya. And Krishna, he stops cooing when she goes out there and like checks on the situation. And she kind of plays guard for the rest of the night, and she's like circumambulating this tree, like, screaming at the cuckoo bird that she doesn't believe is actually cooing. And before you know it, it starts to get late, and she actually ends up falling asleep. And before she falls asleep, she says, Radha, don't let this rascal interrupt your sleep. Put out your candle in your room, blow it out, and go right to sleep. So Radha listens, she blows out the candle, but she stays up because she knows it's Krishna up in the tree. And Krishna, once Abhimanyu's mother falls asleep, Krishna and her, they start talking for the night, and then the sun starts coming up, and Krishna, he slides down the tree and sneaks away. And then Abhimanyu's mother wakes up, and she continues to scream at the cuckoo bird in the tree, I know you're there, I know you're there. And then all of a sudden, Abhimanyu, he comes back and he sees his half-blind, crazy mother screaming at this tree, screaming at this cuckoo bird that's not actually there. And Abhimanyu goes, Mother, what are you doing? Like, have you gone mad? And he says, I know there's a cuckoo in this tree. He says, all right, Mother, very well. She's like, I think it's an intruder trying to steal your new bride. So he says, all right, Mother, very well. I'll put the lock on the gate tomorrow night, and therefore no intruders can come on the premises. So the next night comes, and all that day, Krishna, he's just thinking about Radha, and Radha's just thinking about Krishna. They're just, they had a little association, but now they're in separation. Separation, it deepens the love. As we hear in a lot of the Vrindavan pastimes, this is their mood of Viplambara, Rasa. I'm in separation, so that's a really deep love. So they're thinking about each other all day, and the next day Krishna says, all right, I'm going to go to the palace. This time I'm going to go around back, and there's a little forest back there, and there's some plum trees. I'm going to hang out by the plum tree, and I'm going to start cooing, and Radha will know. So he starts doing this, and Abhimanyu's mother comes out with a stick, to go chase the intruder away because she thinks he's, so she goes out there and she can't see him again. Krishna, he's not even in the tree. He's just kind of hiding in the bushes, hiding in the forest. And she can't see him, So she goes back in, and the next day it said that Krishna or Radha, she wants to go out to get him because this separation is so deep. She's like, I want to go out and spend time with Krishna. Therefore, I got to make an excuse. So Radha says, my mother-in-law, please let me go pick some flowers. I'll bring back. I can make them as an offering, like that. So she says, okay. And so she goes out to pick some flowers, and, that whole day she spends, with Krishna out in the forest. And, some serious time is passing. And Kutila, which is Abhimanu's sister, is basically talking with Jatila, which is the mother. Jata is like what the yogis wear, in India. They got the jatas on their head, really like tangled mess of hair. So it's said that her mind is like a tangled mess because, she's always trying to get Krishna to not spend time with Radha. It's pretty funny. And then, the daughter, her name basically, I believe it translates to like being confused or something of that nature. So, she's always confused because she's trying to facilitate them not to meet, So she goes out and she's like, I know Radha's meeting with Krishna. I just know it. He's been gone. She's been gone for so long. Like, there's no way it took her this long to pick flowers. So she goes to go make sure that Radha's not with Krishna. And Radha Krishna, they have gopis watching to make sure they don't get caught. So the gopis, they signal them, go hide. She's coming. And they go and hide in the forest. And, because Krishna, he smells so good. It's described that he smells like a guru and sandalwood and camphor, mixed together. And this scent, it permeates wherever he goes for at least 20 minutes. This scent, wherever Krishna goes. So it's pretty obvious if Krishna's been around because you can smell the most beautiful scent, So Abhimanu's sister goes and she's like, Radha, where are you? Krishna, I know you're here. I can smell you, So So they realize they're about to get caught, and Radha comes out of the forest and she says, oh, I found some nice flowers. Let's go back to the house. And she says, I know Krishna's here. Where is he? I know you're spending time with him. You shouldn't be doing this. So all of a sudden she says something like, where is Sham? I know I see Sham. And Sham in Brajavasi, it also means night. So Radha, she does a little wordplay and she says, no, it's morning time. Don't you see the sun is up? Oh no. Katila starts to get frustrated. I don't mean night, I mean Sham. She says, I mean Hari. I can smell Hari. And she says, oh, you smell a lion? Hari is another name for lion in that language. So she does another word play. And she says, you're going to save us. You're saving us. You smell a lion in the area. We need to go immediately. Let's leave. And she just gets frustrated and she takes off back to the place. And before she can leave, Krishna, he comes out of the forest and he's disguised himself as Abhimanyu to try to cool things down. And Krishna says, my dear sister-in-law, she says, Abhimanyu, where did you come from? And he says, well, I was surely here with my wife, my good bride. What do you mean? She was out picking flowers. I thought it'd be nice. And she says, Krishna disguised as Abhimanyu says, I have a secret to tell you, my dear sister-in-law. And she says, what? And she says, today the talk around town is Krishna. He is going to disguise himself as Abhimanyu, and he is going to come back to the palace at the time that I always come in the morning. And he's going to make his way, and he's going to sneakily spend time with Radha. He's going to disguise himself as Abhimanyu. And she says, that rascal, we need to stop him. What should we do? And he says, all right, you go home and you tell your mother that this is going to happen. And what you need to do, you need to go out to Abhimanyu's Goshala and you need to collect as much cow dung as you can. Make sure it's fresh. Make sure it's hot and steamy. And you need to go up and put it on the roof of the palace. And you need to go up and hide with your mother on the palace of the roof with all this cow dung. And when Abhimanyu comes, Abhimanyu disguised as Krishna, when he comes, you can show him what's what. And she says, that sounds like a great plan. This sounds great. So she goes home and tells Jatila, her mother, that, all right, here's the plan. Krishna's coming as Abhimanyu, and we can't let him in the palace. We know his tricks. He's a trickster. We have to defend the palace. So when he comes, we're going to throw cow dung at him. So early that morning, after Abhimanyu, he comes in from his long shift with the cows, making sure none of them run off and making sure they get sound sleep. He comes in early in the morning, and he goes to open up the door, and he sees that the door is locked. And he says, this is odd. I never locked the door. And then he sees his mother and his sister on the roof. And he looks up, mother, sister, what are you doing up on the roof? And they say, I know you're not who you say you are, you rascal. You're a rascal. You're coming to try to steal Radha. You're going to spend time with her. You're a rascal. And he says, mother, I'm Abhimanyu. What do you mean? Come down here and pinch me. And they say, we know you'd say that. And as soon as he says, come pinch me, they take the heaps of cow dung and they start throwing them at Abhimanyu. And they throw like 20 handfuls each at Abhimanyu. And he gets covered from head to toe in cow dung. And his nose is just sticking out of the cow dung. He's maybe got like one hand free. He's like, this is insane. My mother and my sister are possessed by a ghost or something. I need to go to the nearest exorcist and get an exorcist to free them of this demon. They're throwing cow dung at their brother for no reason. They say, I'm Krishna, I'm Abhimanyu. What the heck? So this is a nice trick that Krishna played in order to, a nice pastime that Krishna arranged. So many pastimes of the Supreme Lord. This is a relatively simple pastime. There's so many simple pastimes that just show the sweet, loving relationship between Radha and Krishna and his different devotees. And it's so sweet, and it's transcendental nectar, to hear something like this. And we can go on, these pastimes are infinite. We can go on hearing all the time. If we're properly utilizing our ability to hear, we can go on all day hearing stuff like this and never get tired. I mean, it's nectar, like hearing all the time. So if we can simply use our hearing propensity for hearing nectar and getting absorbed in Krishna's loving pastimes with his devotees, if we hear them enough, we can actually enter into them. And this is the perfection of our life. This is what we have to, come to. So let us utilize our hearing propensity for the most nectar possible. There's so many things that somebody can go on hearing in the material world, and we see it just breeds hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. But instead, when you hear nectar like this, it breeds swan-like people, real human beings, real man. A real man is somebody who hears about Krishna. A real man is not, somebody who works a construction job and chews tobacco and can lift big weights. This is what our demoniac society wants us to think, that these are real men. These firefighters and police officers and big macho men. These are real men. You tell an older person in society that, I want to become a monk or devote myself, spiritually to God, or I'm a spiritual individual. He looks at you like you're a wuss, like you're not a man or something like this. This is the degraded level of our society. But Prabhupada, he says that a real man is somebody who knows Krishna's pastimes, who hears Krishna's pastimes, because this is what mankind is meant to do, man or woman. We're not these bodies anyway. We're not who we think we are anyway. So let us utilize this chance of hearing the pastimes of Krishna and his associates, and let's continue to just relish the nectar and use relationships as a vehicle to be able to relish the nectar together. We're spending all this time hearing. We should be able to recount it in the presence of sadhus at some point, once we make some, advancement there, and once Krishna allows us, to get there. So if we continue to be chanting very sincerely, this can happen very rapidly, and the nectar, it can be churned endlessly amongst devotees, and this is what these temples are for. These temples are for sharing the pastimes of Krishna together, relishing the nectar together, deeper and deeper each day, and these are how real relationships will really manifest. Otherwise, we can spend all day and all night preaching about preaching, or preaching about we need to be talking about Krishna. We need to be hearing about Krishna. This is the goal of life. We can be talking about that all we want, but until we actually enter into actually doing so, it's going to remain a very base level depth to our spiritual practice. So hearing Krishna book is wonderful. Hearing different pastimes, they're wonderful because they're full of so much transcendental nectar that it really never gets old. It's always fresh, just like those cow dung patties. So thank you for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees.